Take a look at the calendar, y'all, and make note of the fact that 2024 is coming to a fairly rapid conclusion, given the fact that we're entering into the fourth quarter of the year. But make no mistake, in the video games industry, things could change very quickly on a week-to-week basis even. And that's kind of the discussion I want to get into today. Given the fact that we're closing in on the end of the year, and it's been a bit of a lull in the industry in terms of the major platform holder announcements since I want to say June, specifically that E3 timeframe when the industry or when the platform holders usually have their events. And more specifically, I want to talk about what I expect for Nintendo and PlayStation to be doing down the stretch of the back half, or really the back quarter of the year. Quick predictions for Microsoft out of the way. By the way, I'm not really expecting much, probably just more gameplay reveals from them from various events, like I think Tokyo Game Show or eventually the Game Awards for some of their acquisition announcements, like for example Perfect Dark and Fable and all that. I'm not really expecting much from Xbox for the rest of the year, but Nintendo and PlayStation though, I ain't gonna hold you, they definitely could come through with some heat. Most specifically, let me talk about PlayStation first, because I feel like we're expecting PS5 Pro. I feel like PlayStation has a pretty big last quarter of the year to go through. Everybody and their mom is expecting PS5 Pro. It's apparently an open secret. Various developers and just industry publishers have been talking about it. If I'm not mistaken, I believe we have rumored specs as well. I think recently there was an event going on. I want to say it was PAX, maybe PAX East or West. Yeah, it was PAX West. So PAX West was going on, major gaming event, and it's apparently an open secret that the developers are talking about PlayStation 5 Pro, and that it's supposedly going to come out soon, within the end of this year, presumably a November release. All kinds of rumors that are going on. I'm taking a look at 4chan here, and you know, 4chan is not the most reliable source when information comes out, but stuff does come out every now and again from 4chan, and people are saying that there's a potential announcement of September 9th. So at the time of this recording, it'll be next week. Release date December, which would be surprising for me because prototypically Sony likes to reveal or release their consoles in November. Sony likes to release their consoles in November. This thing is gonna cost a bunch of money, coming in at rumored to be $600 for the digital version, and then $700 for the disc, and then potentially it's gonna be just like the PS5 Slim, where it has the removable disc drive, so like the base model, or it'll really just be one model that they sell, or not one model, but they'll have the base model, which would be quote unquote the digital edition, but you can just buy a disc drive afterwards and attach it to it. And then presumably alongside the announcement, they would announce a bunch of different games to go alongside it. Personally, I'm kind of expecting info from potentially Sucker Punch, if not Sucker Punch, potentially I think it's Bend Studio. Those are the guys that are behind Days Gone, right? And then if not them, then I'm also potentially anticipating an announcement from maybe Blue Point. And then of course, as a sleeper pick, you could never count out Insomniac, specifically because they live up to their name and clearly do not sleep, since them boys be up deep into the late night, presumably every night, teetering the line on whether or not they're crunching over there with the amount of output that they have been providing to PlayStation for the better part of the last, let's see, how long has the generation been going on? 4 years. So yeah, you could never count on Insomniac, but those are like the 4 studios that I'm expecting. Not expecting, but I'm kind of keeping my eye out for to announce stuff, because I think that they might show up in a big way. Now the question would be is, if they're going to do an announcement for PlayStation 5 Pro, how are we going to get it? Is it going to come in the form of a blog post, an event, a state of play, a PlayStation showcase? Personally, I want them to do a showcase, because I think it's been a while, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Yeah, it's been a while. PlayStation Showcase hasn't happened since mid 2023. In June or May, one of the two. We haven't had a proper dedicated showcase since. And the reason why I want them to have a showcase is because I feel like Sony needs to detail what the back half of the generation is supposed to look like. Because I don't know if you guys have noticed, given all of the news and the disappointment that is a bunch of their live service endeavors, a la a Concord, a la a Foam Stars to a lesser extent, a la a Destruction All Stars, I think that's the name of the game. And even if you want to throw in The Last of Us Online, you could throw that in there as well. Sony has had a pretty lackluster lineup for PlayStation 5, at least in terms of like the console exclusives, not counting their live service efforts in the past couple of years, but more specifically in the past year or so, let's say the last 2 years. Their most major announcements or most major game releases have been Spider-Man, Stellar Blade, Astro Bot is coming up at the time of this recording in about a week. And the reason why that's important is because after Astro Bot, I'm not really sure what else they have, I guess, on the back burner, right? In their lineup. What's their slate for the rest of the generation? Of course, we'd find out in due time, but that due time needs to come through in the form of the various events that they do. And so, like I said, a showcase would be preferable for me, because I would want to see those couple of studios that I mentioned that I'm keeping my eye out for, and then anything else that they have to sort of detail what their single player and multiplayer games lineup is looking like moving forward. And that's not even to get into a discussion about whether or not their lineup should be predominantly single player and multiplayer. But that's what I'm expecting soon. I personally think, if I were to put a prediction on it, I think mid-September we're gonna get a PlayStation showcase, and the PlayStation showcase is going to announce PS5 Pro. It's going to come with a blog post attached to it detailing PS5 Pro, and it's going to also announce the lineup of games for the next, let's say, 6 months to round out the year. And then you know, kind of creep into next year in 2025. And of course, throughout all of that I was talking about, I didn't mention how there are a couple of games that are coming out that are like third party that are kind of carrying the lineup, like Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater and like Silent Hill 2, that remake. That's a big one that's coming out soon. Kojima's game as well, Death Stranding 2 are on the way. Speaking of, actually, let me double check. Death Stranding 2. It has no release date. So if we were to get a PlayStation showcase, then we might end up with at least a release window for this game. But that's what I'm expecting from PlayStation within the next week, maybe a couple weeks. And then moving on to the topic of Nintendo, which is arguably even more exciting, not specifically because of this year and their games lineup, because I'm of the belief that Nintendo's game lineup for this year hasn't been the greatest. Not bad, but just not the best. Definitely not one of the strongest points of the Switch's life cycle. Primarily because, you know, the common complaints, ports, remasters, etc. They're kind of just filling out the year with stuff that they need to drop so that they can say that the Switch has continued to drop quality content, which I'm not blaming them for, but it's just how it is. But the reason why I say it's exciting regardless down the stretch of the rest of the year is because, as we know, September is coming up. As of the time of this recording, September 1st is literally tomorrow, which means we are expecting a Nintendo Direct within the next 30 days. And that's really exciting given the fact that there's not really much to expect from the Switch left. So they may just outright reveal Switch 2. Now whether or not they would reveal the Switch 2 within a Direct, or if they would split it up, have a separate dedicated Direct as like a send-off for Switch 1, and then have a Switch 2 reveal trailer, I'm not sure. Personally, I'm actually, now that I think about it, I'm actually gonna predict the latter. I'm gonna say that they're gonna do a dedicated Direct and then have a separate reveal event for Switch 2. And then we'd probably have to wait until next year for information. But regardless, anticipating Switch 2 news in any capacity, like seeing it, having a trailer, potentially the name, any kinds of details for the future of Nintendo is very exciting, especially given the fact that Switch 1 has been around for, believe it or not, 7.5, pushing 8 years. I mean, given the fact that Switch 2 probably won't release until mid to late March at the absolute earliest, it's safe to assume that the Switch will undoubtedly hit 8 years old before Switch 2 drops. And because of that, I'm ready for an upgrade, my boy. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm ready for the upgrade. Not only am I ready for the upgrade, the ability to play games at a higher fidelity and anticipated games that are to drop, like games that are coming out soon, will presumably play better on it. For example, Prime 4, which, by the way, I think is obviously a cross-gen game. I just feel like it's really exciting as a longtime Nintendo fan and as a year one Switch owner. I feel like I'm beyond ready, just like Reggie, for it. So I'm excited. Now, in terms of when I anticipate the announcement, both for the Nintendo Direct and the potential Switch 2 announcement, just off the top of my head, I want to predict, like, let's say September 17th, specifically because historically they tend to have their directs, they tend to hold them in the middle of the week, like Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And then usually they stick to the beginning like not the beginning, the second week or the third week of a month. So just off of a whim, because I'm not inherently looking at Nintendo's pattern of Nintendo Directs for September, but just off the top of my head, I'm willing to bank that the Nintendo Direct will be on the 17th, and then let's say the Switch 2 reveal would be maybe the week later on the 26th, or maybe even October. But yeah, I'm super excited for Switch 2, super excited for the future of Nintendo as well as PlayStation. These are just some of my thoughts for what I think we're gonna see in the next month or so, for both Sony and PlayStation, for both Nintendo and PlayStation. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. Like I said earlier, drop a like if you like the video and subscribe if you mess with the content. I'd really appreciate it, and it helps out the channel. And I'll catch y'all boys in the next one. Peace.